welcome everyone. We are Lions Pride Insurance. We're here at the Spanish Fork Library helping you guys learn about health insurance. So this is Health Insurance 101. Feel free, if anyone has any questions here or online, definitely let us know. But, yeah, so I'm Tyler. I'm the owner of Lions Pride Insurance. This is Kathleen and Adriana here. This is our team helping us here tonight. So, cool. Okay, so we will jump right into it. So,
Welcome, guys.
perfect time. We just started. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free. Just blurt it out. Let us know.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, just try to get it the next slide. No, you're fine.
Cool. All right. So, first part we're going to start with is what is health insurance. We're going to have a couple of different things to explain the basics about it later on. Yeah, we'll explain things like what deductibles are, co-pays, things like that, what the difference is between all those, and what it has to do with you. So that's kind of why we're here, is explaining why that is so important for so many people, because think about health insurance nowadays is very complicated.
Yeah.
Before I turned, what was it, 18 was when I first got health insurance. I had no idea what it was. For the first 3, maybe 4 years that I had health insurance, I had no idea what it was. And then it wasn't until about, I don't know, a couple of years after that, 2 or 3 years after that, that I actually became a health insurance agent. That's when I really started to understand what health insurance is. Made a huge difference in understanding when we had our first daughter. I was like, okay, I know what these costs are. I knew exactly how to kind of organize things to say, okay, this is how much it's going to be when we have medical expenses, and this is how much it's going to be throughout the year. So that's just kind of how it applies to me, and we'll talk about that more later on. Okay.
Oh, you said me go to the next one. I was like, I didn't prepare it.
So, a couple of things. This is a couple of things that health insurance is and is not for. Health insurance is not going for the doctor, which kind of sounds contrary to what you see nowadays. But honestly, health insurance originally was for the really big, major medical expenses. Nowadays, it does help out with going to the doctor's office. They give you smaller co-pays and things like that, which is nice. But the most important thing when it comes to really to insurance in general is for the really major stuff that you're not expecting to happen. That's the whole idea behind insurance is you're signing a contract. That's, I think, the bottom one. It's a contract to protect yourself against financial loss and to say, okay, this is the worst case scenario for me. After this point, what's going to happen? That's where the insurance company takes care of you. Another thing that insurance is for, like I said, the big stuff, when they have to call your wife because you're unconscious. That happened to me a month ago. If you're unconscious, chances are that you're going to use your insurance. I was actually in a motorcycle wreck about a month ago, or a month and a half ago. And we're still going through getting all the bills. Yeah. So, long story short, health insurance makes a big difference there. It saved us a lot of money, and we actually have a high deductible. But I was really amazed at how much it did save us, even though we did have a high deductible. So we may talk about that a little more later. But yeah.
Cool. Oh, okay, perfect. So kind of what Tyler just touched on, how insurance is really just a fail-safe for when you seek medical treatment of any kind. Insurance gives you the freedom to know what you're getting into, what your share of the cost is going to be. I know it seems like before I became an agent, it seemed like I never knew what medical bills were going to cost me. It was always just sort of throw it out there and see what comes back. But there really is a method to the madness. So that's kind of what we're going to help teach you today. So a little bit of a story for me. Before I was a health insurance agent, I got into a lot of problems with health insurance. I didn't understand how any of it worked, but I got myself about $40,000 in medical debt. I had a baby at an out-of-network hospital, so without knowing it. So that was huge. So when I became a health insurance agent, it helped to kind of click all those things together. I was like, oh, that's why this happened, and that's why that happened. So that's why we find it's really important to help people that are not health insurance agents kind of get that clarity before you have to file medical bankruptcy. So what health insurance is for is for just that kind of peace of mind. You know, so you can have the freedom to seek medical attention when you need it and not skip on services or forego medications or things like that, because it can really be detrimental. Let's see. So the next slide, yes. So you need health insurance. Everybody needs health insurance. If you're walking around without insurance, you are taking all of the risk on yourself. There's no like worst case scenario. The worst case scenario, which I have a story coming up, but the worst case scenario can be really, really bad. If you don't have insurance, you don't have that stop loss. The medical bills can really get outrageous really, really quickly. When you have the health insurance, you have a certain amount of protection, and when you don't have insurance, there is just really no worst case scenario. Like anything you can imagine can happen. So the next slide, I've got a little bit of a story. A good friend of mine was in his early 30s. He was completely healthy, didn't have any problems, so he didn't think he needed health insurance. One day he was eating at a Mexican restaurant. He got a fish bone just kind of lodged in his throat. And it was kind of annoying, but he didn't think that it was a big deal, so he just let it go. A few weeks later, he had to go to the emergency room because it started to become infected and cause him a lot of distress. He actually made it to the emergency room just in time before he collapsed, and he had some really rare infection from this fish bone in his throat. He had to get life flighted across California, where a team of specialized surgeons saved his life, but his medical bills were of just over $2 million as a result of that. Just eating a piece of fish at a restaurant. So health insurance is really important. There are plans available to you guys that we would love to help everybody with, that even if it's a high deductible plan, you have some kind of stop loss there of, a few $1,000s, that's your worst case scenario. So going into that a little bit more, Tyler, we'll talk about some of the problems in health insurance.
Cool. So this part, we definitely want some participation from you guys. So we'll go through a couple of things that we've heard of people saying, what are some reasons to, I don't know, be worried about health insurance or things like that. Do you guys have anything that comes to mind what's some of the problems with health insurance or healthcare industry?
Well, what scares
like
you about getting health insurance or having health insurance?
What's that?
I definitely want the insurance, yeah.
Yeah.
You really can't, we can't be without it now. Years ago, you go to the doctor and it's $5.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal, but now it's a major deal anytime you're involved with anything medical.
Yeah.
So you gotta have it. And the older you get, the more important it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw, I was used to specialists, without insurance, going to a specialist, I was thinking that was between $100, maybe $200 at most, but I found out a lot of specialists end up charging a lot more than $200 per visit. They could be, the most I've seen was like $950 for a specialist. And that's just for one visit. So if you don't have insurance, you're paying the full brunt of that. And they'll give you some cash discounts, but a lot of times if you got a insurance that gives you a copay, it's gonna be a lot better than that cash discount.
Before I became an agent, I was afraid of getting health insurance because I didn't think that I could afford it. After, Obamacare was released and we lost our group insurance plan, I was like, well, we can't afford the group plan anymore, so that's it for us. And so that's something that is really close to my heart, is helping people that believe that they can't afford it because they've had an outrageous quote from somewhere, or their group plan is too too expensive for them. There are a lot of programs available to you. There's a lot of alternative options to get that kind of coverage without having to pay $1,000 a month for it. So that's something that's near and dear to my heart, is helping people utilize those programs that are available.
Any other thoughts on issues or concerns with health insurance?
I mean, I'm a sports person. I like to do adventure stuff. But then, you know, sometimes when I think about the potential risk of getting injured, I was like, maybe not.
Right, yeah, it can
Yeah.
keep you from doing the things that you
Right.
love because, you know, you're afraid, and that's a tragedy. You know, you should be able to do all the things that you love and not have to worry about what it's going to cost in an emergency.
And that's exactly it. This is going to be the insurance salesy part of me, but there's a lot of insurance agents that they and it's not bad to do this, but like they focus on, hey, that's the point of health insurance, is to give you that sense of security. You can go enjoy your life, do what you want to do. Obviously, there's other things to keep in mind. You gotta look at how much is it gonna cost. Security's great, but if it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg, it kind of defeats the purpose. But, yeah, so yeah, totally agree with you there. That was one of the things I told you I was in the motorcycle crash, but it was nice to know that, hey, I can go to specialists and I can get the care I need so I could get back on the bike. So.
And he did very quickly afterwards.
My wife's not happy about that. But this is gonna be online, so I don't know. Go too far.
Another fear is that, you know, you pay for the insurance, but then they might like nickel and dime you, so they
Yeah.
won't cover what you're hoping that they will
Yes.
cover. So maybe not understanding all of what's in your coverage and
Yeah.
worried about being played. Kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that feeling very well. You know, just feeling like you pay for the insurance and then you pay every time you have to use it. So that's where, you know, like I said, sales pitchy, but it's meant with like no intention. But like getting a health insurance agent's help with that, our service is completely free to help you. We don't charge you anything. But we can help show you the different plans, because I picked out my own marketplace plan before I was an agent, and it was a terrible plan. I mean, it was one of the cheaper ones, but I didn't know that had I gone a couple pages in, you know, the 7 pages of different plans, that I could have gotten one for a couple dollars more that covered, you know, all the things that I really did want covered. So definitely, I love being able to offer the service that we do to everybody.
Cool. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so now we're going to go over the basics of health insurance. So this is where we're going to kind of show you a couple of different things, give you some examples of this is how the basics of insurance work. And a lot of this can actually be applied to most insurance, even home and auto, things like that. Premiums, deductibles, those you can definitely apply to home and auto. Home and auto, you don't have co-insurance, co-pays, things like that quite as much. But they are a big factor, a big part of health insurance. Okay, so the first one, which is good because I'm getting thirsty, so I'm glad we got to this one. Okay, so this is premiums. Hang on, I'm going to actually do that, make it a little easier. So, so when it comes to premiums, the way that premiums work is you are, in a sense, you're taking your money and you're saying, hey, I could have a medical bill in the future that is going to be too expensive for me to handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all this money into a basket or into a cup with other people, and that is going to help cover those costs. So you figure, okay, each person's paying about an ounce of water in premium, okay? So you put that much in, that's, you can't really see that, we need like a see-through cup.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll use this. So, the first person's premium goes to about right there-ish. Pretty small in terms of the whole cup. But as more people, as you put it in per month, you say, okay, that's 2, 3, say 4 months of premium. That gets you to about there. So you've got a couple $100s in there, but then all of a sudden you get hit with a major medical bill. Okay? So you got $10,000 in medical bills that come up, but that's way more than you put into it. Well, luckily, someone else has been putting in their premium the whole time, and so that helps to meet that. So then you only have, let's say you've got a deductible or co-insurance for whatever that is, that is what ends up paying the hospital. So that solves your problem of, I've got this major medical bill, how am I gonna pay for it? Any questions about that, how that works? Anyone else thirsty? If not, let's do it. Okay. Okay, now we'll let Kathleen.
All right. So Tyler just quenched his thirst, but is anybody hungry right now? Because I have a cookie that I would like to share with someone. Alrighty, so I don't want to touch the cookie, so I'm going to take this one. Alright, so this is kind of what it's like to share, to have a deductible. So who wants to share a cookie with me? You want to share a cookie with me?
Sure.
Okay. Alrighty, so I am going to take a small piece of this cookie, and then you can have the rest of it. You can have the napkin too. So I am going to eat this small portion of the cookie, and then you will eat the rest of the cookie. That's sort of how a deductible works, where you agree that you will pay a small portion of whatever medical bills that you accrue throughout the year, and then the insurance carrier agrees that they will pay the rest of those medical bills. So say your deductible is $2,000 and you have a $6,000 medical bill come in, you pay your $2,000 of that medical bill, and the insurance company will pay the remaining $4,000. So that's sort of how the deductible, that's how that works. The next thing is the maximum out of pocket.
So, with a maximum out of pocket, or a lot of times it's abbreviated to MMOP, that's MOOP, kind of a funny insurance term for you there, but
There's lots of them.
yeah, there are a lot of insurance acronyms. So basically, the way that those work is you've got your deductible, and typically that's when the insurance starts paying. They're not going to pay anything up until that point. The out-of-pocket maximum is kind of the opposite, where they say, okay, you know what? After this, you're not going to pay anything else. So you have paid that whole dollar amount, and sometimes it's up to say $8,000. So they're saying once you've paid $8,000 out of your pocket, that's a lot. So we're going to take care of everything after that, which makes it nice because when you do have those major medical bills, like the $2 million, my grandpa had $750,000 within a 6-month period. You know that okay, after this point, I don't have to pay anything. They're going to pay everything. I remember when I was a kid, when my mom would, or I think it was my little brother, when he was born, we met our out-of-pocket maximum, and my mom was like, okay, we met our out-of-pocket maximum, everyone go to the doctor's office. That's how it works.
Do you have any works? Do you have any bumps? Do you have any lumps? You know, like, okay, check out.
Yeah. So that's the cool thing about an out-of-pocket maximum, is it says, worst case scenario, this is what you're gonna pay. A lot of people, what they do with their budget is they say, okay, based on our budget, we can afford, or we've got a couple $1,000s in savings, let's try to match that with our out-of-pocket maximum. Sometimes that's realistic because if the premium's low enough. Sometimes it's not, so you do have to look at, okay, maybe we'll pay a smaller premium, but we'll go to a plan that has co-pays and co-insurance. So that's what we're going to talk about next.
Do you want to hold the mic for Roy? This one? Yeah. Okay, so something that we like to look at for our clients when we're looking at those 7 pages of plans that come up as options for you is we always like to look for plans that have co-pays, because I think most of us, if not all of us, have had the experience of a plan that when you you pay a couple $100s a month for the insurance, but then anytime you have to use it, you have to pay full price until you meet your deductible, and that's garbage. So what we want to do is we want to find you guys plans that offer co-pays before you have to meet that deductible. So you have a copay. So this is like, this is your deductible per se. So for every time you go to your doctor's office. So you have to pay $25 every time you go to your doctor's office. And every time you go to the doctor's for something, you chip away at that deductible. And instead of paying $300 to go to your doctor, you pay $25, so it saves you money there, and then it's also chipping away at your deductible at the same time. Copays also can apply to medications. So we look for plans that have medication copays, like your maximum copay for medication is $15 or $20. So everything that you end up paying towards your copays, it chips away at your deductible slowly over time. So then if you do have a major medical expense, your deductible will be lower, but it comes out just only as you need it. There's also copays for specialist visits and for urgent care visits are very common. So that way you can have some coverage available to you that's not gonna break your bank at the same time that you're kind of chipping away at a deductible, but you don't have to pay that deductible all at once. So that's sort of how a co-payment works. And that's what we try to help you find, is a plan that offers those kind of co-pays or perks before you have to pay, full price for everything. So that is how co-payments work.
Cool. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. Cool.
I had a question.
Yes.
Sorry, I was kind of confused on the difference between deductible and out of pocket.
Yes.
So,
So that's kind of,
This next one might help with that.
okay.
yeah.
So yeah. So once you've met a deductible, prior to needing a deductible, you're paying 100% most of the time.
Except for your copays.
Yeah, unless it's a copay. So if you have a plan, for instance, if you have a plan that has no copays whatsoever, just a deductible and co-insurance, then once you've met that deductible, prior to meeting the deductible, you're paying 100% of the bill out of your pocket. So if you've got a $1,000 deductible and you've got a $200 doctor visit, then you pay that full $200. But if you have a $3,000 bill, then you're going to pay the first $1,000. After that, there's $2,000 remaining, right? So that's where coinsurance comes into play.
This is like the most thing that's not talked about in health insurance that gets very confusing. So this is probably, hopefully will shed a lot of light on what goes on.
Yeah. So if you end up going, let's say you've got $2,000 left of that bill, and let's say you're on an 80-20 plan. That's the percentage that the insurance is going to cover. They're going to cover 80%, and you're going to cover 20%. So your little 20% here, and they're 80% here, so they're going to cover the majority of it, but that's after the deductible. Once your small portion has met, say, $3,000, that's your out-of-pocket maximum. So you know that once you met that, they're going to cover it 100%. But before that, between the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximum, it's going to be this percentage. So even if you get a $2,000 or $5,000 bill, you may be only paying 20% of it. That make a little more sense?
And every plan has a range that they will pay. Some plans are 50-50, some plans are 60-40, some are 90-10. So that can kind of factor into your premium price as well. Maybe it has higher copays, but the co-insurance portion of the plan has a better ratio in your favor. So those are the kind of pros and cons that we weigh when we're looking at a plan, and you can also do it for yourself, kind of weigh those things out. But yeah, the co-insurance I find is the most untalked about part of an insurance policy, but it's the period of time after you've met your deductible, but before you've met your out-of-pocket maximum, where you're sharing financial responsibility for any medical bills that come through.
But on the flip side of that, we've seen this in the years we've been around. We've never reached our deductible. We've never exceeded it.
Yeah.
So we've always had, I'll consider a fairly low deductible.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side of the deductible and the copay and all this other stuff is, if you've got let's say a $3,000 deductible, you pay that first virtually $3,000.
Mhm.
And if you have a procedure that puts you over that by $25,
Mhm.
then they'll pay 80% of $25.
Yep.
$25.
And you pay 3,000,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
it feels like not a real good deal then.
Yes.
But the thing I always say about insurance, it's something I will pay to not use.
Mhm. Yep.
And that's pretty much,
Yeah, we
it,
don't use
I kinda like to gamble. It's the only legal gambling there is in
Absolutely.
Utah.
I
so-
say that every single
I think
day.
you're the person I learned that from. I say that to a lot of people.
When I-
I'm pretty sure you're the one I learned it
When I
from.
started learning about insurance, I was like, so it's like gambling. You know, like you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons and kind of decide where you want to put your money. Do you want to, you know, pay for a higher premium so that way you get more coverage if you do use it? Do you want to pay less in premium so then you pay more when you end up using it? So those are the kinds of things. It's not a perfect product. It wasn't even ever intended to cover everything. So that's kind of our job when picking a plan, is thinking about.
Years ago,
Yes.
insurance covered everything.
Yes, that
We
is.
would go to insurance and it was, you never heard
How about
anything, you never got
childbirth?
billed
Never
for
did
anything.
that.
No, childbirth, no,
Never
they
did
did,
child-
they did with childbirth, it usually ended up costing you
That's true.
Well, it was cheap, I mean.
a couple
Yeah.
hundred
Yeah, it was
bucks.
Right,
right, we always say.
Yeah, it wasn't like 30 grand.
Unless you had a boy, then there was some additional stuff, but
Right, yeah.
$200 or
That's,
$300.
that's very, very correct. Recently, like the insurance as we know it,
Yeah.
it is not
It's gone
going to cover
crazy.
everything.
Well, that's why I
so.
say a doctor visit used to be $5.
Yes, so
Not
it's,
so much.
that's sort of how we manage it, is trying to think about for you in your individual situation,
Right.
where's the best bang for your buck for your individual needs. And that's what
So, and then coming back to like coinsurance, that's a good thing to keep in mind with when you are like planning on having a family, or if you've got a surgery coming up. A lot of times you can estimate your cost by just calling up the hospital and say, hey, how much is this going to cost?
Mhm.
A cool thing about having a insurance company. We're not going to talk about this too much tonight unless you guys have a lot of questions about it, but you do have what's called a network, and having a network means that the doctors are only allowed to charge a certain amount. So that gives you a lot of protections too. So like I was saying with my recent accident, I went to the hospitals, was there 2 nights, something like that. I don't know. I was unconscious for one of them, so I don't remember. But
His arm, like he's
yeah,
still got
a
the
nice little
scars from
scar going
that,
down there.
right?
Yeah. Anyway, so they sent me a little thing saying, hey, this is how much the total cost was, but because you are in our network, we're gonna knock. It was a huge amount. It was a couple $1,000, just because I went to an in-network facility. Now, I was unconscious, so I didn't have a lot of choices there, but I was still, luckily, I was pretty close to the hospital that was in network. And even if I wasn't, most of the time, insurance companies will cover you if it's life-threatening. So that's not an issue there.
If it's not though, and you have babies at out-of-network hospitals, they don't help you out.
No.
So when I'm, helping expecting mothers and things like that, we look at what hospital they want to deliver at or what's closest to their home, and then we kind of can base the plan choice off of that, like which provider we're gonna go with. So those are important things to think about when you're picking a plan as well.
Unless it's an emergency, you really,
Yes, exactly.
100%
Like you
need to
have
know.
no choice, like you're gonna die if you don't go someplace else.
yeah, if you do go to a place that's out of network by mistake or something like that, and then you try to get the insurance company to cover it, it can be a battle.
Oh yeah, I fought it for a year.
Yeah.
So that's always something to keep in mind is if you ever have something come out, actually at any time, you really should check to make sure, is the doctor I'm going to going to be in network? If you don't have time to, there's always going to be extenuating circumstances. But
But if you all need help with appeals, I have done a lot of that. I will help you.
so this maybe explains kind of what we were trying to say, and maybe that helps answer it. The question that you had about deductible, out-of-pocket maximum. So the yellow portion is what the insurance company is going to pay. The blue is what you're going to pay. So if you're saying, let's see, well, yeah, I pretty much explained that already, but if you're gonna be, if you've got a small medical bill, but it doesn't have copays or anything like that, you're gonna pay 100%, which, like he was saying, even if it's $3,025, the part that they're gonna share is just what's after the deductible. If you've already met the deductible in the year, great. You don't need to worry about that. But if you haven't, and that's the first medical bill that you've gotten that year, then you're gonna need to pay that deductible first. Then they're gonna pay for 80%, and you're just gonna pay this 20%. Then once your portion has reached that out-of-pocket maximum, that worst-case scenario, they're gonna cover 100% of the bill after that. So for instance, my grandpa that I mentioned, $750,000 in medical bills, he actually had a really low out-of-pocket maximum. His was like, well, it was Medicare, so Medicare's a little different. He had like a couple $100 out-of-pocket maximum. Yeah, once he had paid that out-of-pocket, he didn't have to pay a thing after that. So he was going through cancer treatment. He would sit down with his doctors and they would say, hey, we've got this treatment, or we've got this test we want to run. It looks like it'll help, but we don't know if you can afford it. He'd be like, you know what, don't worry about it. I've already met my out-of-pocket maximum. You're good. So it gives you a lot of peace of mind there.
Okay. So we kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but who needs insurance, really? I came up with a few points. Number one, if you have a palpable heartbeat, you need health insurance. Number two, if you don't have a reserve of $2 million saved up for related health expenses, then you need health insurance. And number three, if you like your life, then you should have health insurance. But in all seriousness, if you are living in the state of Utah, if you're living in the United States, you're paying taxes, you should have health insurance, and you have access to health insurance that is affordable. Small business owners, they need to have health insurance as well. They don't have it always through a group plan, so we can help people find that. Or if you work for a small business that doesn't offer insurance, you do have plans that are available. And yeah, if you're turning 26, sometimes younger, and you don't qualify for your parents' plan anymore, then you need to find health insurance on your own. That's the point in my life that I didn't have health insurance, and I very much wish that I had known what I know now. So basically everybody needs health insurance and you can get it for an affordable price. And I think that is everything we have for you guys today.
Yeah, so that's about it. If you do have questions, always feel free to give us a call, send us a text. Even if you've got friends or family that aren't clients of ours, we would love to help them out. Group policies we will help with, but we may need to ask them a lot of questions about, hey, how does it work? And we can explain these same things to them. So yeah, always feel free to reach out to us. Something that I think kind of sets us apart is we have a set of values that we try to live by, and say, hey, we are not going to try to shove policies down your throat. That happens a lot at insurance agencies. So I want people to understand that insurance, kind of like she was saying, insurance is affordable, and insurance is an option that people can have even when they feel like they may not be able to. So,
did that open up any questions that you guys have that we maybe could have covered better, or do you have any questions that you had before when you came in that you'd like us to weigh in on?
Do you guys work with like foreigners at all?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of people that have green cards or student visas or visitor visas that we can help.
any other questions or thoughts there? Anyway, we could have done better.
All right,
More
now-
Play-Doh, less Play-Doh. More cookies.
Yes, we do have cookies and brownies for you guys. Feel free to help yourselves, and hopefully we'll do more classes of these like these in the future, with covering different ranges of topics that people want to know, because it's important. And there's not a lot of people out there that really care about teaching other people how to do it. So that's why we want to really broadcast that we're here to help you. Whether we sell you a policy or not, we want to help you.
we'd kinda like to attend